All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session on AWS certification. So today we will be giving you details about the various AWS certifications which are out there. And by the end of the session, you will know with respect to whatever your career path is currently, right? Whatever you are working on currently, which certification you should actually choose and what kind of roles you can expect when you're done with that certification. Okay, so guys, that would be the crux about this session. Now, before we move on, I would like to tell you all that some people have joined us on the webinar today who will be able to ask me questions, and some people are watching this on YouTube. So people on YouTube, if you have any questions, you can actually put it down in the live chat, and then we will be answering all your queries. My team is here, they'll be able to help you out. People who will be asking questions on the webinar, I'll be picking them on the go, and then we will be starting. So before I move on, let me see if we have any questions that my webinar attendees have. All right, so guys, can you please confirm once if everybody can hear me? Because I can see a lot of messages that they were not able to hear me earlier. Okay, Shrishti says yes. Others? Banik, thank you for the confirmation. All right, so thank you all. I think I've got a lot of yes. Sharat, Ridwan, thank you all for the confirmation. Let's move on now and let's start off with the class with the first slide, which is basically going to explain us what we are going to cover in this session. So guys, we are first going to start off with why you should actually learn AWS, where I'm going to tell you why right now is the right time to learn the AWS technology, right? No matter what you are doing currently, no matter where you are in your career, why AWS as a certification you should know, right? So that is something that we will be discussing in the class today. All right. Let me also share my webcam with you guys so that we can also make it a little more interactive. Just give me 1 second. Let me quickly do that. And there might be a delay in the screen. So let me just quickly do that. And then we can start. 1 second. All right, so I hope everybody is able to see me now. So guys, now let's go ahead and talk about what are the things that we're going to cover. So first, we're going to start off with why you should learn AWS, and then move on to discuss what are the different steps to learn AWS, right? Where you should start off with, what are the different kind of things that are in AWS that you'll have to learn. After that, we'll move on and talk about the various certifications that AWS has to offer. I will also be telling you more about what AWS is. I'll probably be showing also a hands-on where I can actually show you how you can launch your first server on AWS, right? Once you understand that, once you get to know, okay, this is how AWS is used, these are different kind of certifications which are offered, I will be telling you different kind of job roles that you can apply to once you are done with the AWS certification. And finally, we will see how to get started. All right, so guys, this is the agenda for this session. I hope it's clear to you. Now let's move on and talk about a first topic, which basically is why do you need AWS? So guys, AWS is basically one of the largest cloud providers in the market. If you compare it with Microsoft Azure, if you compare it with Google Cloud, AWS is having the largest market share in the market right now, and it is available in 190 plus countries, right? There are companies, startup companies, MNCs who are making use of AWS every day, and they are located in different parts of the world, right? So as you can see from over here, AWS has more than 1 million active users. That's a very big number, right? And it provides 170 plus cloud services. There are a lot of services that AWS has to offer, right? And among those services, AWS is also, some services we'll also be looking at while, I'm explaining you more about what AWS is. Moving forward, now let's talk about the demand. So I told you that AWS basically is the largest cloud provider in the market. Now, what does that exactly mean? Right, so AWS basically has a market share of around 39%. And when you compare it with other cloud providers such as Microsoft Azure, such as Google Cloud, you will see that Microsoft Azure is the second largest cloud provider, but it has 19% cloud market share. Right? Now, that is pretty less when you compare it with the largest cloud provider, which is 39%. There's a 20% gap, right? Which basically tells you that nobody in the cloud market right now is able to compete with the kind of customer base which AWS has, right? And this exactly translates into job requirements as well. So if you talk about the kind of job requirements that AWS has, it's quite larger than the job opportunities when you compare it with Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud or even the other cloud providers. Okay, so if you are planning to shift to the cloud domain, I think right now it is the best time. Why? Because AWS has the largest market share. At the same time, there are a lot of job opportunities available, right? In times, you will see that Azure will also, kind of increase its market share. I mean, the AWS market share will not decrease, but again, Azure will also, come up to a point that it will start competing with AWS. Now, what does that mean? That basically means that companies will now prefer people who know AWS and Microsoft Azure both. Now, that is something that you will have to learn before you can even apply for the job. Now, why is this statistics so, which I'm telling you, is because when you talk about MNCs, usually what they do is they have redundancy in place when they deploy something on cloud, right? For example, let's say I have a website which I have deployed on AWS. Now I have deployed it on a server. I don't want that server to anything happen to that server. If anything happens to that server, that basically means that the website will actually go down, right? So what companies do is they deploy multiple servers in the same cloud platform. And with that, what they do is even if one server goes down, the other server can be accessed, and hence their website will always be up. Right now, this is a normal redundancy which someone does when they are available or they make their application available on cloud. Now, when you talk about MNCs, what they do is they also hire another cloud provider. For example, let's say AWS, you have some 5 or 6 servers which are redundant in nature, which basically means if one server fails, you have the second server fails, you have the third server, so on and so forth. But what if tomorrow AWS as a service itself, it goes down, right? So to even mitigate that strategy, what they do is they hire a secondary cloud provider where they again deploy the same servers. So even if AWS goes down tomorrow, they always have a backup cloud provider, which is independent of how AWS is going to operate, its infrastructure. So when this market share will go up, when the market share of Microsoft Azure will go up, more companies will start to adopt, cloud providers or secondary cloud providers, which basically means that whatever they are deploying on AWS, they will also want to deploy on Azure. And what that means for the job market is that if you are applying for the cloud job, you will have to know both AWS and Microsoft Azure, which is actually the case in most of the cloud jobs today as well. But let's say you want to start off with AWS and you want to start it off right away, right? You don't want to spend much time in learning. You actually want to work for some company and learn over there. So right now is the right opportunity. Why? Because AWS right now has the largest market share, which means a lot of companies out there, they are still just using AWS, right? For example, in Intellipaat, they just use AWS. They are not using any other cloud provider for their server needs. So similarly, there are a lot of startups out there as well. A lot of MNCs also out there, mid-sized companies out there who are just using AWS for their infrastructure needs, right? And if you learn AWS right now, it will be the right time. Why? Because they are not expecting any other cloud provider knowledge from you. Okay, but in the long term, as a cloud architect myself, I would suggest you guys that you should learn another cloud provider as well down the line. But for starting point, it is a little easy to get into the cloud domain right now than it will be in the future. Okay. Now let's talk about some companies which are operating their servers on AWS right now. Right. So companies like Netflix, companies like Pinterest, Reddit, they all are hosting their applications on the AWS cloud right now. Now, what that means is that when you watch anything on Netflix, what you're basically doing is you are basically, operating on the AWS infrastructure, or whatever video you are seeing is basically hosted from a server which is owned by Amazon, right? So that is the meaning of this slide. So when you use Netflix, when you use Reddit, even Salesforce, Twitch, Pinterest, they all are using the AWS infrastructure. Moving forward, now let's also talk about salary. So one of the most popular profiles in all the AWS job roles is the solutions architect profile, right? So if you talk about the average salary that a solution architect gets, in the US, it's around $122,000 an annum. Now, this is the average salary, guys. So people are earning more than this as well, and people are earning less than this as well, right? So when I say average, it depends on what skill set you're bringing to the table, how much in depth you know about the technology, and based on that, the average salary that an AWS solution architect owns is around $122,000 per annum. Similarly, in India, the average salary is around 7,30,000 rupees per annum. But this is again the average salary. Like I said, people are earning more than this and are earning less than this as well, right? But this is the average salary among all the AWS professionals which are out there in India. This is the salary that they're earning at an average. Okay. Now, before moving forward, let me see if we have any questions by the people who are there in the webinar, and let's try to address those questions. Okay. So people are saying, I cannot hear you. Guys, am I not audible? Guys, am I audible? Can you confirm? Okay, great. So Kunal, what you can do is you can probably, just try quitting the app and then logging back again. I think that should solve your problem. Okay, thank you for the confirmation, guys. All right. All right. So Shrishti is saying, can we have a more comparison on AWS and Azure? So sure, Shrishti. So like I said, market share is something that they are. AWS is ahead in Azure. When you talk about the uptime, so the kind of uptime which AWS has had in the last last year, which is 2019, right? So AWS faced less downtimes than Azure services. So when you talk about how many minutes were AWS services not available, so I guess it was around 200 to not 200, around 100 minutes or so that AWS services throughout the year were not available, and the number which Azure has is quite higher. Don't quote me on that number, guys, but if you talk about the uptime, AWS as a cloud provider was more available, when it comes to uptime than Azure when in the year 2019. Now, obviously, if you compare it year on year, this number has been decreasing for Azure, and AWS has been, the cloud provider which is even leading in that space. And the clear reason for that is that AWS has been in this game since the past 6 to 7 years. Not 6 to 7 years, sorry. AWS, I think, was founded in 2006. So they've been here since 14 years now, right? And 14 years is a quite big time, guys, which basically means that, let's say you have a product, you have improved that product over the 14 years time that you've operated it, right? And when you compare it with Azure, Azure was basically launched recently, I think in 2012. So it's been 8 years that Azure has been operating. So obviously the product as a whole, Azure is not that mature and AWS is more mature. And that is why you also see that most of the market share is more on AWS side, right? Why? Because companies want reliability, companies want infrastructure that they can actually rely on for all the production needs. And AWS answers, all their queries like these when they look at statistics, which is year on year, which is they have the best uptime record over the years. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Okay, Saurav is saying, but I see around me most of the companies opt for Azure. Saurav, there is a reason some companies opt for Azure. I'll not say all the companies opt for Azure, but the reason the market share of Azure right now is improving is because when you talk about companies who are using Microsoft product, right? So the license that AWS uses for launching a Microsoft product, like let's say Windows. So if you launch a Windows server on AWS, right? And when you launch a Windows server on Azure, obviously the pricing of that Microsoft product on Azure would be a lot cheaper than what you will get on AWS, right? But when you talk about reliability or ease of use, AWS is far ahead of Azure right now, and companies who are using the Azure infrastructure for their needs, probably they're using it because to do cost savings. That is point number one, because some services Azure does not have it in a proper shape. In what I mean is, they're like, for example, let's assume they're the load balancers, right? So in my personal experience, the load balancers that Azure has are a little more primitive than what you have in AWS, right? In terms of the time it takes to deploy, in terms of the kind of features that they offer. So similarly, if companies are not looking for features, they're looking for cost optimization. I think right now people are preferring Azure. Why? Because Azure offers you a better pricing than AWS. But AWS, basically, if it is charging you more, it's giving you that quality of service as well, right? So that is why you will see the difference between companies opting for cloud providers. So Ashok is saying, features wise, if we compare which is better, AWS or Azure. So features wise, I think I like the DevOps services on Azure because they have a separate dashboard for that. AWS has not come up with that kind of a dashboard as of now. But when you think about it, actually, the services, when you talk about uptime, when you talk about ease of use, when you talk about availability, I think AWS has better services than Azure, right? But like I said, if you talk about just the DevOps services, then Azure has sorted it out. They have way better, DevOps services in Azure when you compare it with AWS. Okay. So Raghu is saying, I'm a developer having 15 plus of years of experience, and now I'm in UK. So which certification I should go for initially? I don't want immediate jump into architect level. What and all I should know initially as a developer in cloud? Very good question, Raghu. Uh, I think I will be answering your question in the coming slides. So let's wait for some more time before I can answer your question. Okay. So Banik is saying Azure support is not that much than AWS. Not sure, Banik, if Azure support is that great or not. I have not personally evaluated it. But yes, both the companies, they offer support with different pricing plans, right? And like I said, AWS is a more mature product. So it could be that the kind of problems that you face in AWS, they might have a resolution to it faster than probably a problem that you're facing in Azure, which the support team will take some time to take care of, just because of how their product is. But when you talk about the sincerity towards their work, whether how good is the service of support for AWS and Azure, I think they're both at par. But at the same time, like I said, the product maturity is something that I'm talking about. That if you have a problem in AWS, since they have tried and tested everything since the past so many years, since the past 14 years, right? They will come up with a resolution faster, or you will find documentations which will be able to answer your questions more regressively than when you compare it with Azure, because they have new products in line. Their documentation is not that proper as of now, and hence people, if they are facing issues, they're not able to resolve it immediately. Okay, so which is cheaper for profit and robust both? So it depends, Banik. If you're using Linux machines, I think you should go with AWS. If you're using Microsoft product, then I would suggest you to go for Azure, just because they have a better pricing, right? When it comes to robustness, I think if you have a proper redundancy in place, you can overcome that. But still, if that is something that you cannot afford, if redundancy is something you cannot afford, right, then I will definitely recommend you to go with AWS, because even if you have a standalone server running in AWS, the chances of that server crashing is pretty less when you compare it with Azure, given the fact that I told you about the statistics where AWS has less downtime than what Azure had in the year 2019. Okay, so Hemant is saying for a complete beginner, where is the best point to start? So Hemant, I will be telling that to you in a little while. That's what my next slide is going to be all about. But if there is any more questions with regards to what we discussed, I will be happy to answer all your queries. If not, let's move ahead with the slides. Any more questions? All right, let's go ahead. So guys, now let me tell you, if you're convinced that AWS is something that needs to be learned as a technology, and you want to learn cloud, it is intriguing you, right? So now let me break down the steps that you should basically follow in case you want to learn AWS. Okay, so guys, AWS has a lot of services, right? So it has, like I said, it has 170 plus services, right? Now to learn all those services, it's going to be a very big task, and honestly, nobody does that. No AWS engineer in the world would know all the 170 plus services. Even the engineers who are working in Amazon, they would not know about the 170 plus services that they offer. There are different departments for each service. Now, let me talk it from the point of view wherein you would want to become a cloud engineer or a cloud developer or a cloud admin. How you should go ahead and prepare for a job which is going to make you use your AWS skills. So there are different certifications in AWS, guys. Now, based on which certification you're targeting, there's always an exam guide which is given to you. Okay. Now, based on that exam guide, you can actually see what all services you have to prepare for. You can basically see what all features of those services you have to learn. So let's say if there are 170 services in AWS and you want to become a cloud architect, I think you only have to know around 20 to 25 services thoroughly to basically apply for an AWS job. Okay, which of those services you have to learn, you have to follow the exam guide to know that. Let me make that job more easier for you. What you can do is you can just straight away go to Intellipaat.com, right? And on Intellipaat.com, you will find the 3 courses that we offer, that is SysOps, AWS Developer, and Solutions Architect. Right? Just go through our course content. So what we have done is we have updated our course content according to the exam guide. So just for a reference, you can go through the course content over there and understand what are the things that you need to learn in order to prepare for a specific profile. So exam guide is something that you need to follow. If you feel that exam guide is a little tough for you to follow, what you can do is, like I said, just go ahead on our website. We have the AWS Solutions Architect course. We also have AWS Developer Certification and AWS SysOps Certification. So if you go on these web pages, they will let you know the different kind of course content that these certifications demand. And from there, you will get an outline as to what all things you have to learn. Okay. Now, different ways to learn AWS, I will be getting onto these in a little while. Before that, let me see if we have any questions. Okay, so Hemant is saying AWS with Power BI or SQL Server. Well, it depends, Hemant. What is the kind of profile that you're applying for? For example, if you're a database administrator and you still want to become a database administrator, right? So you can go with AWS for SQL Server or Power BI, right? But I think the other side of what you're asking is AWS better with Power BI or SQL Server? Right, so I think Power BI and SQL Server, they're both different softwares. They're there for different needs, right? Power BI is a visualization tool and SQL Server is basically a database tool. So if you're using AWS with both these, I think it will work perfectly fine. But like I said, if you are into the fact that I want better costs as well, so then I guess because both of these are Microsoft products, you can, if you see both these things on Azure infrastructure, they'll be a lot cheaper for you, right? But if price is something that you're not going for, what you are going for is quality, what you're going for is uptime, what you're going for is availability, then I would suggest you should go with AWS. At least in the current scenario where statistics speak that AWS has the least downtime among all the cloud providers. Okay. Shrishti is saying to become DevOps with certification will be good. So Shrishti, I'll be coming that too in a little while. Hemant is saying, where do I start? So Hemant, like I said, what you can do is you can go to the exam guides that we have on our website, and through that you will get to know what are the things that you will have to know. Now, how to learn those things? Let me cover that now. Let me start with how you can actually go ahead and learn those things. So, for example, right, the first source for learning anything for free, I think it's YouTube or blogs. So you can go to YouTube, you can find a lot of tutorials on AWS. You can actually see Intellipaat channel as well, right? We have a lot of things that we put up on our channel, I think every 2 or 3 days about AWS. So you can learn a lot from there if you want. What you can also do is you can actually go to our Intellipaat blogs, and we have written a lot of content again on cloud over there as well. So you can start from there to basically just see if it is coming up to you, or it is something that you can learn also, right? The other thing that you can do is recently what we've also done is we have launched free courses on a lot of technologies. So what you can do is, let me go to intellipaat.com/academy, right? So here what we have done is we have made some free courses available to you. For example, we have the AWS course as well. So you can just take this course for free and see like whether it is something that you can learn actually learn or not. So this is a self-paced course, which basically means that there are recorded videos over here, right? You can go through them and understand whether this technology is for you or not, right? From my experience, what I've seen is that people are able to cope up with the AWS services. They are able to learn, even if they are coming from quite a background which is not into development or administration, right? If you have the zeal to learn about a technology, you can go ahead and you can start with AWS. So that is what my experience is when it comes to making people learn about AWS, right? So, but my suggestion to you would be, first go with the free resources, understand whether you are able to cope up with that or not, because everyone has a different aptitude towards learning things. So you can see if it helps you or not. Okay, now let's give you a glimpse about what AWS is. So with this, you will get to know actually how things work on AWS. So we have been talking about downtime. We have been talking about deploying resources. So are those resources which are supposed to be deployed on cloud? How do you basically deploy them? Let's talk about that, right? So let's first let me give you an intro about what AWS is exactly, and then I will show you how you can basically launch a server on AWS. So guys, AWS is a cloud provider. Now, let me clear the air about AWS. So I think most of the people here, they know about AWS, but let me start from the very scratch and tell you what AWS is really about. So guys, AWS is basically a cloud provider, which gives servers on rent, which basically means if I have this laptop through which I'm basically taking this webinar right now, right? This is an 8 GB laptop, and this has around an i5 CPU. Now, tomorrow, if I want to do some machine learning task, or let's say if I want to do some video processing, this laptop is not enough. I will not be able to do it on this laptop. Probably I will have to buy a PC, or I will have to buy, another laptop which will have a higher configuration, and then on that I can do those tasks, right? So this is on an individual level. But when you talk about companies get a lot of tasks which are temporary in nature. Let's say you're a company who has to do a lot of processing, right? Recently, what you have started is you're trying out with a new product which is basically going to process videos, right? And you do not know whether that product will be a hit or a miss, right? If it's a miss, then probably the investment that you did has gone all into drain. If it's a hit, then you should actually plan a lot of servers right now for being ready for the kind of traffic that you're going to get on your product. So when you deal with these kind of situations, what happens is that as an owner of the company, or as a person who is the person who's going to invest in some product, you would want a you would want a way where the risk is very less, right? And that is exactly what a cloud provider gives you, right? So let's say for doing the video processing, I need a 64 GB PC with around 10 GB of graphics, and it needs around 16 cores of CPU. Let's say this is the requirement that I have. So if I buy this kind of a server or a PC, I think it will cost me around 2.5 to 3 lakhs, right, in Indian rupees. And if I basically rent it on AWS, I think it's going to cost me around $1 an hour, right? So I can launch my application on the servers of AWS. Let's say in the 2-3 days time that I launch that product, I see the kind of response that I'm getting. If it's a miss, all I have to do is I have to delete those servers, and I will just be charged for the time that I use that server. That is $1 an hour. That means $24 in a day. And if you multiply it by 3, I think we got around 72 hours or 72 dollars that I basically have to give to AWS for basically testing out a product. But when we talk about the kind of investment that I'll have to make, I will have to invest, let's say in dollars, if you're talking about, I will have to invest around $2,000 or more than that to get a PC like that. And then I will be able to evaluate whether that product is a hit. Now, if that product is a hit, let's say 1 million users come to my application now and they start to use it, I will have to buy those $2,000 servers more, right? And think of a time, let's say if your product became viral in 15 days, right? So in 15 days, you will have to scale up to a capacity. You will have to invest around 100, let's say on 100 servers you will have to invest on, which basically makes $200,000 investment on your side without even seeing the gains, because you have just started the product. Let's say you have started it in a phase that people are going to use it for 30 days, and then they are going to evaluate whether they want to use your services on a paid basis or not, right? So you will have to invest $200,000 just to make that service available. But when we talk about AWS, if you're renting servers that AWS is giving you and you're paying on an hourly basis, you don't have to do that at all, right? Second thing is that why companies are preferring AWS is that let's say I have the kind of money to basically buy or invest around $200,000. So if I'm investing $200,000, it will take around 3 or 4 or 5 days for the servers to come to my premises, for me to set them up, to have a team who's going to maintain them. So all these things I'll have to take care of, right? But when I'm renting servers from AWS, I can get servers, I think, in seconds. So if I need a 8 GB server, I've just thought about it right now. In the next 5 minutes, I can have an 8 GB server running for me with a proper internet connection, with a team which is going to monitor it, which is the AWS team, and I'll just have to pay them pay them on an hourly basis for the amount of time that I'm using the server for. So this is actually very lucrative for companies to use and exploit this kind of a service. And that's why when AWS, I think it was among the first companies which came up with this model, and it instantly became a hit. That is renting infrastructure on an on-demand basis and letting it go whenever we want, right? And just paying for the time that we use it. So that is why AWS is such a hit right now. And what we as people, as employees, when we learn AWS, what we do is we enable companies in implementing their product on the AWS infrastructure. So that's a story about what AWS is and what you will be doing as an AWS solutions architect or a developer or as an admin, right, when you work for a company. Okay, so let me see if you have any questions. Okay, so Pranesh is saying, which is the AWS certification which is better for freshers? Pranesh, let's hold that question for a while. Let's go ahead and let me first show you, how you can actually go ahead and launch your first server on AWS. So just give me a moment. What I'll do is I'll go to a browser and let me log into the AWS Management Console. So this is the AWS Management Console, guys. All you have to do is you have to sign up on this. And what you get is you get 1 year of free subscription that you can make use of for launching servers on AWS. That basically means if you're launching servers on AWS, you will not be charged for 1 year. And there are some terms and conditions to it. I will explain it to you in a little while. But first, let me just sign in to my AWS management account. Okay, so guys, this is how your management console is going to look like. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside EC2. So EC2 is basically one of those services that you will have to learn if you're preparing for a certification. And this service, what it does is it gives you servers on demand. For example, you can see I already have some 3 servers which are running over here. Now, if I want, I can have one more server running over here at an instant. Right? What I'll do is I'll just click on launch instance. Now, what it'll ask me is it'll ask me the kind of operating system that I want to launch. Do I want a Linux operating system, or do I want a Red Hat Linux operating system, or do I want an Ubuntu server? I will have to choose among these. Let me select it, right? And now I will choose the size of the server that I want, right? Do I want a 16 GB system, or do I want a 1 GB system? So I can choose among the various sizes over here. For example, you can also see I have a 384 GB RAM system that I have, which is 96 cores, right? So if I had bought this server, I think I would have, given my entire life savings. But this is the kind of server that you can also launch in AWS on demand. So what we'll be doing is, let me show you the kind of server which will be free for you when you sign up on AWS. So if you launch this server, which says free tier eligible, it has 1 GB of RAM and it has 1 core CPU. So it's going to be totally free of cost for you if you launch it. It will not be charged anything. So let's launch this, right? Rest, I think let's leave it at default, because you will have to understand a lot of concepts over here to configure these things. Let's leave it at default. So I'm not going to configure anything now. Here you can see that this is basically a firewall which is getting attached to your instance. So you can see that the SSH protocol is enabled for everyone who wants to join in. Okay, so we'll just review and launch it. Launch the server, and that's about it. So now your server is getting launched, and I think it took us a minute to launch the server. It will take around a minute more to get initialized, and then you will be able to use this server on this IP address. So I will also show you how I can access this server and I can make changes to it. So this is an Ubuntu server that I launched. So it will take like a minute to launch. As you can see, it's already in the running state now. So what I can do is I can just copy this IP address, open terminal. Okay, this is the terminal. Now what I can do is I can just type in over here. Let's say I want to connect to my Ubuntu server that I've launched. So I will just type in the SSH command. So this again, it will come to you as you learn more about AWS. There are some Linux commands that you will have to learn. And as you can see, I have now connected to an AWS server, right? And let me prove that to you. So what I'll do is let me go ahead and first update this system. And let me install a web server on it. And then you will be able to see that all of you guys would be able to access that website. So let me install a web server called Apache 2 over here. So again, it will take a minute or so. And once it's done, what we can do is we can access this website. Okay. So right now, if I copy this IP address, I will not be able to see anything. And I will show you why that is the case. So let me also give this IP address to you on chat, so everybody can actually experience this hands-on along with me. So guys, the IP address that I've given you on chat, can you quickly go ahead in this and tell me if you are able to see anything on that IP address? Are you getting the same results as I'm getting? Can you quickly check it? And can you give me a confirmation? Are people able to access the website using the IP address that I gave? Can anybody confirm me? So Sharath says can't access. All right, Sharath, thank you. Others, can you please confirm? Guys, let's try to be interactive in this session as much as possible. So Uma Mahesh is saying, I don't see any URL. So Uma Mahesh, in the chat, you will see that there's an IP address that I've given. Just copy that IP address and paste it in the browser. That's it. Go to the chat, you will find it. Okay. So while you guys are doing that, Kunal says site cannot be reached. Great. So guys, now let me show you how I'll solve this issue. So I told you about the firewall that is attached to your server, right? So now what I'll do is, I'll just go to that firewall. The firewall is called security groups in AWS. So I'll just go to this firewall. And now I will have to do a very small setting over here, which will enable me to, access the server. So here in the inbound rules, I will have to add a rule, which will basically be for HTTP websites. Okay. So I'll just go to HTTP, and here I will say it can be accessed by anyone. All right. And now if I click on save rules, rules have been saved, and instantly if I go to my browser now, if I hit refresh, I should be able to access it. Can you see? I'm able to access the website now. So can everybody confirm, are they able to access this website now? So Pranesh says the site can't be reached. Okay. So Uma Mahesh says I'm in chat, but not sure why I'm not receiving any messages. Okay. So Uma Mahesh, let me send it again for you so that you can see the IP address. I've again sent it. You can just have a look. Okay. Kunal is saying yes, able to access. Shrishti is able to access. Pranesh, Sharath, Shivling. Okay, great. So as you can see, just by doing a small setting in the firewall, everybody of you is now able to access this website. Now, there are a lot of awesome things that you can do with this as well. For example, I can go ahead and I can change this setting to only be working on my system. So how I will do that is I will just go ahead in HTTP and I will specify my IP. So now only my IP will be able to access this website. So let me just save rules. Okay, it already exists. Cool. So let me just check if this has been changed. Okay, didn't make it change. Give me 1 second. So just delete this rule and I can specify my IP. And we should save. Okay, so now my settings have been changed. And if you give it some 5-10 seconds, I think after 5-10 seconds, you will not be able to use this website. Can you guys confirm on chat? Are you able to use the website now? Can you confirm? Okay, Uma Mahesh says yes. Let's wait for some more time. Okay, Kunal says he's not able to access. Okay, Sharath says just curious. You installed Apache server, but you did not start the service. So Sharath, when you install Apache server on Ubuntu, you don't have to start the service. So when you do it on CentOS, I believe, in that case, you have to start the service specifically. In Ubuntu, you don't have to do that. Okay, Kunal says site cannot be reached. Rohan says not able to access. Shivling, Sharath, all right. Thank you guys for the confirmation. So as you can see, you can tweak the settings over here and you can make changes, to the application which is deployed over here. And it's very simple. It's just that you have to know about all the different components which are related to a service. And based on those components, you have to do some setting. And based on that setting, the changes get reflected on your production application. Okay. Coming back to my slide. So now that you know what AWS is, let me move forward And let's now talk about certification path, which I think a lot of you guys have been waiting for. All right. So, guys, when you talk about AWS certifications, there are three levels of certifications in AWS. Okay, you have something called as a foundational certification, which is basically the cloud practitioner certification. Then you have something called as associate certification, which basically has three certifications. It has architect, operations, and developer. So operations is nothing but administrator. Okay, and when you talk about the professional certification, then you have solutions architect certifications, and then you have DevOps engineer certifications as well. Okay. Now, apart from these, if you talk about some other type of AWS certifications that are there are some networking certifications, big data certifications, security, machine learning, Alexa skill builder. So these are for people who are already working in the domain mentioned over here. For example, you might be a cybersecurity specialist, right? And if you want to be a cybersecurity specialist who is also well versed with AWS, this is a certification that you should go for. But I think majorly in this session, we will have people who basically want to move to the cloud domain either as developers or administrators or architects, right? Because that is a certification that you want to go for. Now, let me tell you which certification who can apply. Okay. So if you are a fresher and you do not know anything about AWS, I will suggest you to go with cloud practitioner, but there is one catch over here that cloud practitioner certificate will actually not fetch you, high paying jobs. It will fetch you around 5 to 6 lakhs per annum kind of a job. But if you are aiming at, a job which is around 10 to 12 lakhs, I will suggest you to skip this certification and go for the architect certification. If you are a fresher who doesn't want to become a developer and at the same time who doesn't have experience in administration. So if that is the case, you should go for the architect certifications. Why? Because you have profiles which are called junior architect profiles, job profiles. Now, those junior architect profiles are people who know AWS but probably would not know about other job profiles, right? So to those kind of people, I would recommend you go with the architect certification, right? Now, there are two kind of people who appear for the architect certification. One is people who are completely freshers, right? And the other are people who are very seasoned people who have experience of 10 to 15 years under their belt, right? And they then appear for architect certifications. Why? Because now they've already been developers, they've already been administrators. They want to change their job profile. They want to do something more mature. They want to do something more exciting, which will also give a push to their career. So in that case, again, you can do the architect certification, but you will actually get a better package than a fresher who is going to appear for architect certification. The clear reason for that being that a junior architect would not know about the experience that you have in your background. For example, if you are an administrator who's been working for 3 to 4 years, or let's say 10 plus years, if you are a developer who has the experience of how, let's say, to create applications. Now, when you can join that with the AWS skills, you can actually do a lot of things now. You can probably go to a company, you can design their product, and at the same time, you can also deploy it on AWS. Now, this is a very helpful skill, especially in the startup scene. Reason being that in startups, people usually, they wear multiple hats. You will be a developer, you will be an architect, you might also be an administrator in that company. But you will be paid accordingly. You'll be paid a handsome amount, but you might have to play multiple roles, right? So for those kind of people as well, you can apply for the architect certification. Now, for those people who feel that they are administrators right now, they want to go into more depth about this profile, about the administration profile, or about the developer profile. I would suggest you guys to go with the for the developers, it will be the developer certification. For the administrators, it will be the administrator profile, which is the SysOps profile. Okay. Now, once you are done with these certifications, guys, you get eligible to apply for these profiles or these certifications, the professional certifications, which are basically solutions architect professional, which is basically a little harder than the associate certifications, and at the same time, it basically tells about the experience of the person who is applying for the job role, right? If you have a professional certification in your hand, that does not mean that you know AWS, but that means that you know AWS and you also know in depth about each and every service, which basically is related to AWS Solutions Architect in detail, right? And you have deployed multiple architectures over it, because these are the kind of questions that will be asked. It will be asked you about. You'll be asked about production architectures. You'll be asked about scenarios where you will have to implement a certain AWS architecture. In what scenario, which architecture will give you advantage? In what scenario, that same architecture will give you disadvantage? So these are the kind of things which are asked from a professional. When you talk about associates, it's more on the level of if I have to do a certain task, which AWS service should I use to do that task? Okay, so that would be on the lines of an associate certification. Similarly, the DevOps engineer profile. So somebody who is a DevOps engineer probably right now, it's not necessary that he needs to have an AWS DevOps engineer profile or a certification. But if you have that, that basically tells about the kind of experience that you bring to the table, right? And then you can actually aim at packages which are between the range of 25 to 40 lakhs, right? So that is the kind of jobs that you can apply for, because that's how tough this professional certification is going to be. All right, so guys, this is about the different certifications that AWS has to offer. Now let me see if we have any questions. Okay, so Sharat is saying, I do not believe that you need to complete the associate level certification to get professional specialty, but traditionally it'll be better to get associate level before professional. Not really, Sharat. So if you want to basically apply or appear for this DevOps engineer professional certification, you will either have to have the SysOps certification or the developer associate certification. If you don't have that, you will not be able to appear for that exam at all. Right? Similarly, if you talk about the solutions architect professional certification, you will have to be an associate to apply for this professional certification. Otherwise you cannot appear for this certification. When we talk about specialty certifications, yes, over here there's no prerequisite. You do not have to have an AWS certification prior to appearing for these specialty exams. But yes, for the professional certifications, you do. You do need to have that kind of an experience. All right. Okay. Cool. Any other questions, guys? Any other thing that you would like to ask me with regards to certification? Do you guys now understand which certification is mapped for whom? Any questions you would like to ask? I'd be happy to answer. If not, let's move ahead. Any questions? Okay, Umamesh, I see no dependency between associate and professional. Well, Umamesh, there's no dependency at all, but the problem is that people who are appearing for the professional certification, if they're not clear with the basics, there's no point for them to appear for the professional certification. So that's why they have said that if you are certified in associate certification, you can go ahead and you can go, appear for the professional certification. So that's how it has been for the past couple of years. But when you compare it with the other, certifications that are given by other cloud providers like Azure and GCP, there they do not give you, this kind of restriction that you have to be this certified in order to appear for some other exam. But in case of AWS, it is like to be that. So Ashok is saying how Intellipaat, is going to help this to get this certificate. So Ashok, basically, we are a company who are directly aligned with the exam guide which AWS has to offer. So what we do is we train you specifically on that exam guide just for you to clear that exam, whatever exam that you're trying to appear for, right? So that is how Intellipaat can help you. I'll be talking more about how Intellipaat can benefit you later. I think right now let's cover what we have, and then we can move ahead. Okay. So Hemant is saying, what are the best paths to go for AWS developer certification? So Hemant, if you want to appear for AWS developer certification, let me tell you the kind of things that you will have to actually work on. So you will have to work on SDKs. So I'm pretty sure if you're a developer, you will already know what SDKs are. So let's say you know the Node.js programming language. Now, how that Node.js programming language can interact with AWS services, there are specific SDKs which are made available on the AWS website. So what you'll have to do is you will have to make use of those AWS SDKs, to become or to do the kind of job that an AWS developer does. Now, the AWS developer certification is not only going to test you on specific SDKs or how to implement SDKs at the same time, but also it will check on architectures. It will also check you on the knowledge of services which are there in AWS. So when you talk about the developer profile, the SysOps profile, and the architect profile, there's a lot of overlap because there is some basic knowledge required in order to go ahead and build upon it, right? So when you talk about developer, there is an overlap with the architect exam guide where you have to learn some services, and once you learn those services, it basically deviates you, and then it teaches you about the SDKs that are there in AWS and how to use those SDKs in conjunction with AWS services. So what is the best path to go for AWS certification? I would suggest why not appear for the cloud practitioner exam first, which will basically test you for the basic skills which are there in AWS, and then go ahead and start preparing for developer, wherein you will already have a confidence boost from clearing a previous exam about AWS, and now you will be basically enhancing your knowledge only in the developer field of the AWS certification. So that would be my suggestion to you that you should do. Ridwan is saying, what exactly would developer mean in this context? Developing applications on AWS. So Ridwan, yes. So let's say like I gave you the example of using a Node.js application, right? So let's say I've developed a website which basically does video processing for me. So that video processing is done on a separate server. Obviously, it will not be done on the same server. So if it's done on a separate server, how do I interact with that server using the SDKs? Right? So that is something that I'll have to code in my application, and I have to do that using only AWS SDKs. So, a AWS developer basically qualifies himself by saying that not only do I know the AWS services, but I also know how to make use of their SDKs for any particular application. Right? So that's what an AWS developer does. Sharad says, I have 12 years of IT professional experience. He's a lead database administrator. Great. Right now, he's trying to move to cloud career, and also he has done a couple of AWS certifications like solutions architect and cloud practitioner. So what kind of roles I need to go for? A bit confused in the right path, the right role to choose for. Looking for some challenging roles like AWS solutions architect roles. So, Sharad, what you should apply for, if I talk about the job market, when you go to a job website, what you should search for and what kind of profile you should apply for, you should apply for cloud engineer profiles. So in cloud engineer profiles, they will not only expect you to know about AWS services, it'll also, your previous experience is also going to help you in figuring out the skills that are required by that cloud engineer. At the same time, to make it more challenging for you, they will also expect you to know other cloud providers, which is okay if you don't know about them. But what you have to do is you have to be well versed with the AWS services at least, so that when you go to some other cloud provider, you're able to relate those services at the same time. Right? So that is something that you can go for, the cloud engineer profile. Then there is also something called as a DevOps engineer profile. So in DevOps engineer profile, they expect you to know cloud, they expect you to know DevOps, and at the same time, you will have your previous experience as well. So these are different kind of things that you can apply for. My suggestion to you would be, since you have so many years of experience with you, and you have done the solutions architect profile, I would suggest you to actually learn DevOps, right? And once you learn DevOps, you will get a hang on how to implement, DevOps on cloud, and that will actually help you to apply for cloud DevOps engineer profiles, which not only pay you handsomely, but at the same time, they are very challenging as well. Okay, so this is what I would suggest you. So Umamesh is saying you're right, but if you have hands-on experience and wanted to write professional certificate, can Intellipaat guide? So if you have the hands-on experience and you just want to crack the certification, yes, Intellipaat can guide you, right? But your hands-on experience will be very critical, because if you are basically going ahead for the training of the professional certificate, you will not be taught from scratch. It will be assumed that you already know how AWS services work, right? And we will just be training you on, advanced concepts like architectures, design patterns, etc., which are required on AWS. Okay, so that is something that Intellipaat can guide you in. Okay, Minaj Syed says Linux admin would be the best for which AWS course? So Minaj, if you want to continue being a Linux administrator or any other administrator in the future, I would recommend you to go for the AWS SysOps certification. But let's say if you want to advance in your career, let's say now you feel that administration is something that is done and you want to do something else in your career, you can actually apply for the architect certification. That is also something which you can go ahead and explore. Kunal is saying in Intellipaat we are going to practice in the free account, or Intellipaat has separate account for everyone. So no, Kunal. So what we'll do is will help you configure a free account for yourself, and all the things that we teach in the course are also going to be aligned according to the free account that you have. So you will not be charged anything if you are using any service, but at the same time, whatever we'll be teaching you, it'll all be related to the exam guide of that particular certification that you are going to appear for. So Suresh is saying, where can we take the exam? Any online test center or only authorized ones? So there are test centers, Suresh. There are some authorized test centers that you'll have to go and appear the exam for. And you cannot take it online. You cannot take it from your system. You will have to go to a test center. In the COVID situation, I'm not sure if they have made the online feature available, but I don't think they would do that. They want proper screening to be done before somebody can sit for the exam, and I think because of that, they conducted it only in test centers. Okay. Hemant is saying, does Intellipaat have training course? Yes, Hemant, we do. Rohan is saying, is Linux required to learn AWS? Rohan, yes, Linux is required to learn AWS. But when you take the training from Intellipaat, we give you a Linux course as well, along with the AWS course that you're taking for free, right? So you can learn AWS and then start with your AWS course. So that is something that we do. Uma Mahesh is saying, the main reason I joined Intellipaat is to fetch good knowledge for professional certificate. Can we have separate classes for this purpose? So sure, Uma Mahesh, what we can do is just get in touch with the ISM who enrolled you and just tell them that I want to go ahead with professional certificate content, right? So they will help you join the right class, and hence you can start from there. Okay. So Hemant is saying, what is the cost for the training course? Hemant will be getting to it in a little while. Okay. So now let me talk about the exam guides that you have. So guys, the exam pattern would be like this. So it's going to be a multiple choice for all the three associate certifications. For all the associate, professional, and specialty certifications. It's going to be an MCQ. The delivery method is testing center. So like somebody was asking me, is it available online or not? So I'm not sure of the COVID situation. Don't quote that on me. But before COVID, everything was done in the testing center only. There was no availability of you giving an exam from your system. This is the time duration, the cost for the certification. So if you want to appear for this exam, this is the certification that you have to pay for. There's something interesting over here that they also offer you practice exams that are basically mock exams. So if you give a mere $20 to them, they will basically give you a practice exam to take in, right, before actually appearing for the real exam. Right, so it is 20 for the associate and 40 for professional and 40 again for specialty. Okay, and it is available in these all languages as well. Okay, so different kind of AWS job roles. So like I said, there are a lot of job roles that you can apply for once you get certified. So you have solutions architect, you have cloud developer, senior AWS architect, SysOps administrator, cloud DevOps engineer, operational support engineer. So all these profiles have been taken up from Naukri or Indeed, right? And they have been put over here. So you will not see AWS solutions architect profile, but you will have synonyms of these profiles that I've told you that you can apply for once you're done with the certification. Okay, now let's talk about what Intellipaat is going to offer you, how you can get started, in the journey of learning AWS. So guys, we have a course, we have 3 courses on AWS. Let me go to the browser. So, okay. So we have our premium set of courses, and you get a lot of benefits if you enroll into a premium course with us. For example, like I said, let's take into account AWS. So if you're going for the AWS certification, let me brief you up on the features that you're going to get, right? So first of all, you will get 36 hours of instructor-led training. So this instructor is going to be a person who is going to be an industry veteran, right? He would probably be already an architect. He will obviously be certified in AWS, but he'll be an architect where he'll be working. He will have around 10 plus years of experience, and he's going to teach you AWS, right? There are going to be 32 hours of project work. So all the teachings that we do, they're all practical based. There's no theory involved. There is theory involved, but very minimum is involved. Why? Because when you'll be working in the jobs, nobody's going to ask you theory. Everybody's going to ask you, can you do it or not? So that is why all our courses are basically hands-on based. So we have 32 hours of project works and exercises apart from the normal teaching, the instructor-led training that we do. Right? We have a flexible schedule, which basically means we understand that you guys are all working, right? So it could be that you have an important meeting today, you're not able to join the class. So we give you flexible schedule where you can reschedule your class for any time that you want. So today, let's say I missed my 8:30 class because of some reason. I can just call support and I can tell them, you know what, I was not able to attend today's class. Can you either give me the recording or can you put me in a future batch where probably this class will be repeated, and I would like to take that first and then I would come back and continue the classes that I would want. So that is possible. At the same time, you're also given class recordings, right? Whatever the instructor is going to teach, that is going to be available in your LMS. So that is something also that you get. You get lifetime free upgrade, which basically means that let's say AWS certification got updated, I think in May, if I'm not wrong, right? From May, the certification has updated. So we have also upgraded our course. So all the people who were enrolled with us earlier as well, they will be eligible for this course, the new course that we are going to launch, which is also going to take care of the new exam pattern that we have. And of course, you have 24/7 support and you have lifetime access, which basically means that you have lifetime access to our 24/7 support team, which is basically a technical support team. So if you have any questions, you can email us and we will be coming up with a resolution within 12 to 14 hours of time. Right. And at the same time, we also give you lifetime access, which means all the lifetime free upgrade that you get, all the content that we are giving you, it's available for you free of cost for the whole life. So even after 1 year, if you want to go ahead and you want to attend instructor-led trainings again, you just have to call support. They will put you in a batch and you can attend the whole training again just to refresh your topics. So these are the kind of features that we give you. We also give you job assistance, which basically means we will help you prepare your resume once you're done with the classes, right? We will help you prepare for those resumes you can put down. We'll help you, put the projects in a proper manner in your resume. At the same time, we are also partnered up with a lot of B2B clients. So we can float your resume among those clients. And if they are looking for that profile, they'll surely give you a call, right? So, but I guess in this perspective, it's all upon how well you can market yourself, which we are surely going to help you in. If you have the right projects in your resume, if you have the right keywords in your resume, automatically you will start getting interview calls. And then it's all dependent on you, how well you went through the course, how well you've done the exercises. Based on that, you will get, a job which will be basically, matching your skill set. Okay. So this was it, guys. This was about the AWS course that we offer. Now, what we also do is we are right now running an offer. It's 30% off that we are giving on our AWS course. So if you're interested, you can go to Intellipaat.com. You can just type in the promo code YouTube30, right? And that will give you a flat 30% off. But this promo code probably will not be there long. So if you're interested, you can just call us on these numbers which are available on the screen. And then you can basically go ahead and, talk with the career advisors that we have in Intellipaat. And then you can get a good deal out of it. So Hemant is saying, how good is the practice exam? Hemant, mimics exactly the same difficulty level that you have in the original exam. So if you are thinking about giving the mock questions or mock exam, I think you should go ahead for the practice exam as well. Ashok is saying, is AWS Certification Course Exam Center available on Intellipaat Center or other locations? So no, so we basically just train you on the things that you need to clear the certifications for. Once you enroll or once you sign up for the exam, the AWS exam, you will be allotted a test center that you will have to go to. You will not be able to give it in Intellipaat. So this thing regarding the job assistance, you are saying Intellipaat can float the profiles with the clients. Is it just in India or also in USA? I mean, do they float with client in USA as well? So Sharad, since we're an e-learning company, the benefit that we have is we train a lot of corporates which are outside India as well, right? So we have all their contact details, and since we train them, they obviously would also require people who are already experienced in that particular tech, so that they don't have to train them, right? So we float your resumes across them as well, right? And if they have an opening like that, which basically is matching to the skill set that you have, they are surely going to reach you back, right? So that is something that we do. Okay. Any other questions, guys? So like I said, you can just call us on these numbers and we would more be than happy to assist you. There are a lot of other things as well that we offer as features in this training, which probably my course advisors would be able to help you out better, in a better manner. Okay, any questions that you have, I would be happy to answer. If not, let's conclude today's session. Any questions, guys? So Sharat is saying, whom do I reach out to for regarding floating my resume and job assistance? Sharat, you can reach out to the support team for this. So you can just tell them that I've completed my course and I want job assistance. So can you see my resume, improve it, and then also can you share it with your partner client? So they will do that. So Uma is saying, do we need to register sessions for resume writing? No. So Uma Mahesh will not be teaching you resume writing. You just have to send your resume to us, and we will be rewriting it to you for you according to the courses that you enrolled in. Okay. Rohan is saying, on the basis of cloud practitioner job opportunities are there. Cloud practitioner job opportunities are there, Rohan, but like I said, the salary range would be pretty less, right? And cloud practitioner basically tells you that you're you basically are certified, or you know AWS. That is what cloud practitioner exams registers you for, or tells about your skill set. So you cannot expect architect level profiles to apply for, but yeah, support roles, companies who give support in cloud, you can apply for those kind of profiles. Kunal saying, what are the content which will come under DevOps? So you mean the DevOps certification, Kunal? So in that case, these DevOps services which are there in AWS, like cloud, like for example, you have code pipeline, then you have something called as code deploy. So all these DevOps services that are there in AWS, you'll have to know how to implement them in architectures, how to deploy production-ready applications, how to mimic resilient architectures, which basically means, let's say something goes wrong in your release, how quickly you can fix it. So this is all the knowledge that a DevOps engineer should have. And that is exactly what you're tested for in the exam as well. So Kunal is saying, is the AWS and Azure part of DevOps? No, Kunal. So DevOps is a different concept, but AWS and Azure gives you services to implement DevOps. That is something that the cloud provider does. Okay, so Kunal is asking about course content in Intellipaat. All right. So Kunal, we in AWS Solutions Architect training, because now as part of the exam guide, we also have the DevOps services which are there in AWS. So we offer a self-paced version of it, right? So in that, like I said, we teach you, what DevOps is in a brief, and then we teach you about all these AWS DevOps services, just code commit, code build, code deploy, pipeline, integrating GitHub with code pipeline, and creating the whole DevOps lifecycle. So this is something that we do, and this is what we teach in the DevOps section. Shivling is saying, what is the difference between Azure Architect and AWS Architect? Well, it's the different cloud platforms, Shivling. So if somebody is an Azure Architect, he's very well versed with how to deploy architectures on Azure cloud platform. And when you talk about AWS Architect, he will know everything about the AWS, services. So there are also people who know all the clouds, right? So you have profiles like cloud architects, where some companies expect you to know all the three cloud providers, right? But usually, how the people get there is they learn one specific cloud provider, let's say for example, AWS. And once they have learned it through and through, they can easily relate it with the other cloud providers which are there, like Azure and Google Cloud. Because essentially all the services are same in all the cloud providers. It's just that the name is different, right? So if you understand production architectures, you can deploy it on every cloud, whether it be Azure, whether it be Google Cloud. But the important thing is to get a good hold on at least one cloud provider. That would be something that would be required. So Minaj is saying, is any programming language required to know for DevOps? So Minaj, not programming languages, but I would suggest you would need to know Linux in order to implement DevOps, because most of the production architectures, they involve Linux servers, and most of the applications which are going to get deployed are going to be on Linux, right? So that's why when you are implementing DevOps for deploying services, you will have to know about Linux systems. Kunal saying, I'm more interested in Azure. What are the content for that? So Kunal, Azure, basically there's a certification called Azure 304, right? So that is similar to what AWS Solutions Architect is. So you can go ahead and see. So we also offer a course on Azure too. So you just go ahead and search for Azure. We offer the same set of features that we offer in AWS. It's just that the content will be different, and it will be more aligned to the certification exam, which is AZ 304. So that would be the course content for that. Okay. Any more questions, guys? Any more questions? Anything that I can help you with? All right. So if there are no more questions, I thank you all for joining in today, guys. I hope this session was useful to you. And if you are really interested, like I said, you can get a flat 30% off on whatever is displayed on the website right now, if you enroll right now, right? So you can just call on these numbers. Even if you're not interested, just inquire about what career choices you should make. And my course advisors will be ready to help you out in everything. Okay. With that said, so I thank you all for joining in today. I hope you guys have learned something new in this session. And I hope you guys will be making the right decisions for your career in the coming future. With that said, thank you. Have a great day ahead and goodbye.